And just like magic, by the time I open up the bottom half, you can see that now we have two buttonholes. There's the one on top and there's the one underneath. So is this one underneath that will hold our buttonholes. So this is where you're going to make your buttonholes, and by the time you button your shirt, nobody can see where your buttons are. Alright, you're welcome to the video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a covered buttonhole. Now, I don't have any shirts personally that has a covered buttonhole, but this is the best example that I have. In these shirts that I placed on the table, you can see that at the bottom half of the buttonhole, you can see that they made a covered buttonhole. So I'm going to show you how to achieve this, but for the entire buttonhole space that you have in front. So that's what we're going to be working on today. Now, this is the pattern that we're working with. I've made a video on this channel on how to make a shirt from beginning all the way down to the end. I have an entire playlist. I'm going to leave a link to that playlist in the description that will show you how to make the collar, how to draft the pattern for the shirt, how to sew it neatly, how to place your pockets, how to place your plackets and your cuff and your plackets and all of that. So the playlist is going to be in the description. This video is only showing us how to go about the buttonhole space that we have in front. So this is the pattern that I've taught you guys how to draft before. The only difference between this pattern and the pattern I have shown you guys before is the amount of allowance that I folded underneath here. Now, I remember in that other video I must have kept at least 2.5 inches at the bottom part, but for this particular one I kept 5 inches under here before folding. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So you can see under here I kept 5 inches. I folded 5 inches for my front and kept underneath before drafting my regular bodies for this pattern. Let me cut this out. Now, after you are done cutting, the first step is you are going to need to iron on your line in order for you to be able to properly define where your shirt is going to be. Now, where the edge of your shirt is going to be. Sorry. Now, when you are putting on the shirt, okay, the side with the button goes under. The side with the buttonhole comes on top. And if you can see what my finger is doing, your shirt is going to cross. Okay, the bottom part of the shirt and the top part of the shirt would need to be long enough so that they can sit like this, one underneath the other. So because of that, we are going to need to consume the first part of that 1 inch of that 5 inch allowance that we kept underneath here. Now let me show you what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open our pattern up and we're going to straighten the front here. We don't need this here, like to be like so. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to separate the left side from the right side by opening up the bottom. Okay, when you are making your shirt, at this point you need to pick what part of your paper will be your left side. Now the reason why I'm saying left is because the left is the part that we are working on right now. Your left side of your shirt is going to always be the part that would hold your buttonhole space, would be the part that would hold your pockets, because I believe most people are right-handed. So I don't know, most times if you only have a shirt that has one pocket will always be on the left. So this part here, the part where I've marked out that's going to be the left part of my shirt. So I'm keeping that side aside, and then let's treat the easiest part. So the easiest part, first of all, is hemming our button space. So the part that will hold the buttons is this side. So what I want you to do is this. You see this line that we have here? You will come 1 inch after there, and you will make a fold. All right, 1 inch, exactly 1 inch after this first line you have here. You see this line you have here? You are going to make a fold and iron the edge. And after you have done that, what I want you to do is this. I want you to come 1.5 times away from the edge and make a cut. So 1.5 inches away from the edge. That's the new edge that you have. Okay? Okay, so let me break down what I'm doing here. This first line is our actual body measurement. This new edge is the excess that would allow our buttons to sit under the buttonhole. That's this new line that we have. Why I cut 1.5 is because I wanted 1 inch to to match this 1 inch here. You know, the first 1 inch, now 1.5, is to align with this our original line. The extra ½ inch is your hemming allowance. So remember, if you look at the bottom part of your buttonhole, there is a hem. Okay, so that ½ inch I kept there is going to allow you to do this. Okay, at the bottom part of your shirt. After this, I'm going to bring back that shirt so that I show you what I'm talking about, so that you're so that you understand clearly. So this is what I'm talking about. If you look at this shirt here, when I flip it underneath, you will see that they simply just hemmed it and made a stitch here. Okay, so this is that fold, the fold we just made now. First of all, this is the original pattern. This excess is what they kept so that these buttons would sit underneath the buttonhole. That fold we just made is the fold that you have sitting here. So that's the easiest part of the shirt now done. Let's move on to where the work is. So now for this part here, okay, that's for this part that you have here, the side that we just finished, you can now spread this one out. Okay, you can now spread this one out and use this to cut this part of the shirt. That's the right side of the shirt, and everything will be okay. You might need to cut, if you want to save, if you are very concerned about saving fabric, you might need to cut them separately. So you cut this side separately, cut that separately. But if you don't really care, the original pattern that we cut with all the 5 inches of excess that we have here will be just fine. You cut both sides and then simply just trim off the excess that we have in front of it. That would also work as well. What I mean is that you can put your fabric on a fold. Okay, you can put your fabric on a fold, like a proper fold that will be enough for this. So let's assume I've made a fold using my my ironing cloth like this. Then I simply place this on top. Okay, I simply place this on top on that fold that's big enough for this. I cut out one pattern. Then I would use this pattern now and then place on top of the right side. By the time I cut and separate, place one on top, use one and check and see, okay, I don't need the whole 5 inches in front. You can now trim up the excess accordingly, and then I'll simply just show you how to fold this one now. This is what we're about to do. So on this part here, okay, on this part here that we're working with, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to mark where that 1 inch is. So you see this place here, you are going to look for that 1 inch and you are going to fold it. Now what I'm doing here, you will need to do this on the fabric that you're working with, not on the paper. So you use this paper to cut your fabric and then you mark it. Make sure to use tailor's chalk that you can erase. I'm treating this paper as if it is my fabric. I hope that that's clear. So after you cut this pattern out, you are now using your chalk, your tailor's chalk, to mark it up before you make a fold. Don't use permanent marker. Treat the fabric that you're working with as I am treating the paper now. And then after you've marked it up to make sure your line is perfect, you are going to fold and iron. And then when you've done that and you've gotten that line, you open it up again and leave it. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to fold 1.5 inches down. Okay, fold 1.5 inches down and then iron it. So after you have made this fold that we have just made now underneath here, you can see we first came out 1 inch from the original line, and now I have folded 1.5 inch underneath. The next thing we're going to do is this. You're going to take your chalk. This is chalk because this is fabric, right? And then you're going to come away from the front. Okay, measure the whole thing. So we have about almost 2.5 inches. You're going to bend that 2.5 inches. Measure whatever you have. It should be around 2.5. Bend this in half, and then you are going to mark your fabric using your tailor's chalk, not permanent marker. You are going to make a stitch where I just drew this line. I'm going to go and make a stitch now on this paper, but this is your fabric. This is how you are treating the fabric. This is not how you are treating your paper. So I have made a stitch on my line that I have here. Next thing I'm going to do, you're going to need to fold it over and iron it, right? Now this is your fabric, right? So fold your fabric, that's the excess that you have, and iron it. And just like magic, by the time I open up the bottom half, you can see that now we have two buttonholes. There's the one on top and there's the one underneath. So it's this one underneath that will hold our buttonholes. So this is where you're going to make your buttonholes, and by the time you button your shirt, nobody can see where your buttons are. And this other part here that you just fold normally sits underneath, and both of them, one will sit over the other like this, and because of that 1 inch push that we did on both sides, you will have a perfectly nice and smooth shirt. Alright, so you see that's how you go about that. So if you've watched this far, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a lovely day. Bye.